Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Trolls Band Together, featuring the voices of Anna Kendrick, Justin Timberlake, Zoe Deschanel, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Camila Cabello, Eric Andre, Andrew Rannells, and Amy Schumer, directed by Walt Dorn. Now, before I get into this review, welcome back to Trolls. After, 2, 3 years ago? I did Trolls World Tour, and let's see if I did watch the two movies recently, and my opinion still holds up. But let's see how this one goes. We open with a boy band going on a live concert called the Brozone, with the baby Branch, as well as his older brothers Floyd, John Dory, voiced by Eric Andre, Spruce, and Clay, as John Dory comes off very controlling and says to follow his lead, and they failed at their concert, and Branch believes it's his fault when it's more John Dory's fault, as he comes off like a control freak. And the band split up because of John Dory, as Branch stays with his grandmother, which before the first movie she was eaten by the Bergens from the first movie, which I forgot what they were called at first, but now I remember. And this opener is a little sad for me, as I sort of felt bad for Branch, as he was a baby, but I'm not connecting with him, not nor the brothers as characters. We pick up 20 years later with an adult Branch, returning voice of Justin Timberlake, listening to his boy band album as he's depressed until his girlfriend Queen Poppy, returning voice of Anna Kendrick, comes in and gets him out of his room to celebrate the wedding of King Gristle, returning voice of Christopher Mintz-Plasse, and Bridget, returning voice of Zoe Deschanel, as they sing a little inappropriate song, like they sort of sing Lizzo's song, which I'm not going to bring out the title because it's too risky for a PG-rated movie. And Gristle and Bridget finally get married after the first movie, as they were only at the end of the second movie, and I could barely connect with any of these characters, and the animation felt in some the same like in the first two movies. And after Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and The Bad Guys, I prefer DreamWorks' current animation as the 3D animation than the 3D animation is, and this is unfortunately getting a little tired. As this series, along with the movie, felt a little tired to me, but I'm not having a bad time with it. As I'm going to preview this, I like the first two movies better than this. John Dory stops the wedding to get back in Branch's life as he meets Poppy, as he gets a note from Floyd, as they have no choice but to sing together in order to get Floyd out of imprisonment by a diamond cage from talentless Veneer, voiced by Andrew Rannells, and Velvet, voiced by Amy Schumer. Ugh, not a fan of her. As they use Floyd's talent, and these are the weakest villains in animation history, as I'm not a fan of Amy Schumer, like I just said, and this movie is kind of proving my point. They go on a mission with a vehicle that is a creature named Rhonda to save Floyd and from Veneer and Velvet and get the boy band back together, with Gristle and Bridget going on their honeymoon, as Veneer and Velvet have an assistant Crimp who they don't like at all, while Floyd looks back as they suck his talent out of him. Let me rephrase that. And this plot is fine, as again, I'm not having a bad time viewing this movie. Tiny Diamond drives Rhonda as he gets in without Branch and Poppy and John Dory seeing him, as Branch is grumpy about seeing John Dory, and they get to the island, and I like the movie's message about having a sibling it's a happy thing. Branch, Poppy, and John Dory find Spruce, as he's called now Bruce, on a vacay island, as he's married to Brandy with kids of his own, who are all giant, I'll say, which kind of surprised me. And John Dory tells them the story as Velvet wrote the letter to get more troll talent, and they sing to prove they weren't a band together by singing their songs that was inspired by Justin Timberlake's boy band from the 1990s called In Sync. Remember those guys? And I did like that scene for In Sync reasons, as I was confessionably a fan at the time. Veneer and Velvet have a machine that vacuums the talent of the trolls. Meanwhile, they find Clay by giving Rhonda the scent of where he is, and Tiny pushes a button to get them to Clay quicker than ever, as that was all funny. Kind of funny, I'll say. But some of this was in the trailer, but it works better in the movie than in the trailer. They go in another troll world led by Viva, voiced by Camila Cabello, who happens to be Poppy's sister, which is in the trailer. And a lot of this movie was spoiled in the trailer, which did kind of bother me. They find Clay and say they have to leave now, but Viva refuses because of Bergen eating the trolls, as they tried to explain they don't want to eat them anymore, as Poppy befriends one as they're on their honeymoon, and she doesn't like to talk about, and Viva doesn't like to talk about what happened in the past, and Clay wants to leave while Viva doesn't want any troll left behind, and they abandon Viva while Poppy leaves her book behind, as the movie tells it pretty thinly, in my opinion. Veneer and Velvet try to awaken Floyd as he pretends to be dead, and Veneer chases Floyd and he captures him while Branch, John Dories, Bruce, Poppy, and Clay practice their family harmony, is what they're calling it throughout the movie. And Branch hears they're going to split up after the mission, like they did in the past after the mission, as Branch walks out on them, which felt like a family film cliche. Like, I think I've seen this part before. Branch saves Floyd all alone while Poppy joins him on the adventure, and so does Tiny, and they sneak in the city and find Floyd until Veneer and Velvet come in with John Dory, Bruce, and Clay. As they trap him in their suits, let's say, they learn it was a trap and meet Crimp, while Gristle and Bridget go to the troll town because they smell french fries, which, amusing, and almost get captured and killed by Viva until Viva realizes Bridget is Poppy's friend, as this felt very convenient, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Velvet and Veneer get called frauds by Branch, Poppy, and Tiny and suck up the talent while having a concert in the middle of the road while driving, and Tiny gives Branch the ring pop, and they almost miss Veneer and Velvet, but the Hustle Man throws them on the ship until they almost get in the cremated looking, like the cream looking, like, I don't know what it is, until Viva, Bridget, and Gristle rides a motorcycle and gets Branch, Poppy, and Viva, rescuing John Dory, Bruce, and Clay in a very weak Floyd from Veneer and Velvet, and they save Floyd by Crimp turning down the sound and turning up Branch's music in order to get Floyd out of the machine, as he almost dies, but he ends up alive, and Veneer confesses he and Velvet are frauds after all, as they go to prison, and the trolls have a concert with everyone, and including his boy band, which I'll talk about in a sec, and have a family reunion, and Branch has a second boy band. That is a cameo from NSYNC. And that felt fun, and I was alright with this climax, and it did feel a little cliche in my opinion, but I was fine. It's a harmless movie. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 5.1 out of 10. I can't connect with the characters, as the villains were pretty weak, as they were they were the weakest of villains of animation history. I just do not like this, which I just don't like. And this isn't as good as the first two movies, as the 3D animation in this felt tired after the Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and The Bad Guys. I prefer their animation styles over this 3D animation stuff, which feels pretty tired in my opinion. I did like the callbacks from the NSYNC songs, and I like that we have a cameo as Justin Timberlake was in that band. And I also like the movie's message about having siblings as a happy thing, which is a sweet message. The trailers gave away so much of the movie, which did kind of bother me, but I had a fine time viewing it. But at the end of the day, it was alright, and I'm going to give this movie a mild recommendation for people who love the first two movies and like the music in general. But yeah, it's pretty harmless in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for returning with me to Trolls, and until then, Justin Timberlake, 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 Justin Timberlake, Timberlake, Timberlake.